Hi everyone, it's Michael again. In this video, we're going to learn one of the most important concepts in Java, which is methods. So we're going to talk about methods and what it helps us with. It helps us actually with, organizing our code. It helps us to avoid repetition, making program easier to maintain, building reusable functionality. Also, we're going to cover what methods are, how to create method, how to call method, and also we're going to talk about parameters and arguments. We're going to talk about return values and real world example. This video, like I would say, is perfect for Java beginners. So stay tuned as we're going to dive into each part when it comes to method. So I'm going to use this as a form of intro into what method are. So just let's imagine writing the same code 20 times in your program, and that will be a little bit frustrating, right? So it's going to be difficult for us to maintain, and of course, we're not going to be 100% perfect when it comes to typing, so we're error prone. So this is exactly why Java basically provides methods. So method help us to organize our code and make it reusable. In this video, we're going to learn how to create and call method with practical example. What is a method? A method is a block of code that perform a specific task. Instead of writing the same code repeatedly, you write once inside a method and you call it whenever you needed it. Keep in mind, I spoke about in the beginning of this playlist. I spoke about dry. That means do not repeat your don't repeat yourself. I spoke about one of the major power of Java, which is object oriented programming. So method is basically what we create inside our classes. That means the function we create in our classes is what methods are. I'm also going to, trying to explain much more further how or real life situation or scenarios that we can actually explain what method is. So think of a method like a coffee machine. You press a button and it performs a task. And you don't actually really need to rebuild the machine every time you want to make a coffee. You already have the method there. All you just need to do is just call the method and it's going to perform whatever function that we have, within that particular method. So I will use this word, without method, we're going to end up having a repetition and writing our code over and over again. If it has to be 100 times, that means we're going to write it over and over again. I'm going to show an example of code where there is no method and the one that is method. So just imagine we want to say print.out, using an example, and we're saying, hello world. Let me say right, and we have to print these. We have to write these, more than once. I'll have it like this. Just imagine the bottleneck this is going to cost us if we have to write this. But let's look at it in a scenario of having just one single method that is going to have this. So for instance, I'm going to actually create a method and I'm going to call it, I'm going to make it a static method. I'll call it hello world. And I'm just going to paste this here, right? And inside here, I'm just going to clean up this and just say, hello world, hello world, then hello world. So instead of we having to write this hello world all over, I can already have the method. Keep in mind, don't stay focused on the fact that maybe it's just one line. We can have thousands of lines of code, depending on what we want this function to actually perform. And just imagine having about 50 lines of code here, and we have to rewrite it in where we have the hello word, making it, let's just say 50 in this hello word. That means we're going to write it like 50 in three places. That's going to be like 150 lines of code. But instead of it, we already have it created inside this function here, which is like our method here. So like I said, it's a method because it's a function inside our class here. And if we try to run this, now you can see it's saying hello world, hello world, hello world. So this is one of the good parts of having our method. So we're going to talk about method structure and an example of what a method structure is. So because a lot of us will be wondering what we wrote in this part where we have the hello world. So I'm going to break it down a little bit for us. So the static here basically allow us to call this method without having to create an object. I repeat, it allows us to call this method without creating an object. I know a lot of us will like say, what do you mean by creating an object? Instead of calling it this directly, we will have to create it as an object before being able to call it. But because we have it as static, we are able to call it directly without creating an object. So the next thing is going to be this void, which means the method does not need to return anything. It doesn't need to return anything. It's just going to tell us the value that we have here, which is hello world. Then the word hello world, this is the name of the method that we have here. And I know the question is, what does this double cycle, the parenthesis basically means it basically holds the parameter if needed. The parenthesis holds the parameter if needed. And of course, we already know the curly brackets contain the code that we're going to be executing inside the method. So we're going to talk about also calling a method from, okay, I'm just going to say within this class to start with. So the part where we said hello world is the part where we call the method itself. So that means this tells Java to execute that method at that point in time. So whatever it is that we have as that method is just going to execute it. Then also we're going to look into method with parameters. So method basically becomes much more useful when they actually accept inputs, or like just re-echoing what we have inside the method. It can actually be much more useful when it accepts inputs. I'm going to show you an example of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to have something like let me just do this. I'll call it greet, and it's going to receive some input. I'll call name, right? So I'll say hello. Let me just pull this out. This is concatenation. I'm just going to say name, and that's it. Yes, I know I'm yet to define what names are. So what I would just do is I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to call the greet. Is expecting me to use, I'm just value, to pass a value to it. I'm going to say Michael. Sorry. So what does this mean? It means we are calling this part, right? And we're sending Michael, which is the name here, and we're expecting it to output hello Michael. So like I said, this method is basically receiving a value and uses it inside the method. So what does it mean is that this greet, which is the method, we are sending Michael into this part, and we're going to say, instead of just hello, or we see that it says a name, right? It's just going to tell us hello Michael. Let's just try and run this so I can have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. Now, can we see that it just says hello Michael? And of course, let me just put the space in there. So if we run it again, it's just going to say I just want it to look more cleaner. So you can see the space in there. So hello Michael. So we also have something that is called, we only have what is called multiple parameters. So we can, okay, I'm saying multiple parameters. So that means it can have different data type. Let me put it that way. Of course, we spoke about data type previously. So an example of the one that is going to have a multiple parameters are going to be, I'm just going to say students. Yeah. And I'm saying the name, I'm still going to use the name, and I'll say int age. Sorry. So that means it's multiple. I'm just going to say name to be this. Then I'm going to say name is, let me just see. And I'm going to add it, and my age is, sorry, so I'm just going to put, right. So by the time we're going to pass our parameter here, all we just need to do is we're going to say students, and we're going to pass, for instance, Jonah, and we're going to pass another one, which is going to say 12. And if we try to run this, I'm going to comment this out, and we run this now, it's going to say name is Jonah and my age is 12. So yes, name is Jonah, and I want to make it a little bit cleaner. Okay, so, and my age, Jonah, yeah, and my age is 12. So that's an example of multiple parameters. Also, we're going to talk about method with return value. So sometimes we don't just want to perform an action. We want the methods to actually give us what is called a result, rather than just performing an action. An example of that is going to be, I'm going to have another static int add int a, int b, sorry, and we're going to say return a plus b, right? Okay, so in this part, we're just going to, we want to add to our parameter, we want it to return, a value rather than just, we want to basically, let me use the word perform. We don't want to actually perform an action. We want it to, the methods to actually give us a particular result. We're going to do a little bit of an arithmetic here. So I'm just going to say, I have to close that part, and I will just say int result equals yeah, add, I'll say 10, 20. So it means this is going to be A is going to be 10, 20, and of course it's going to give us 30. So if we say you should print this out, I'm going to have to copy this part so I don't have to type it all over again. So it's going to print this out, and I'm going to clean up this, and I'm just going to say you should print out the results. And if we try to run this method, what do we have now? We're going to have it as 30. So that is an example of what we call method with return value. So I would like to talk about the real world situation that we can make use of this scenario. We can make it for calculators, and this is actually, we can also use it for business application when it comes to calculating of tax or discounts, and also we can use it to when it comes to reduce duplicate code. We can use it to improve our readability. This will make it more simple when it comes to trying to debug our code, because that's another very important part of being a programmer. You have to be able to debug code when there is error, where the problem is coming from, or whatever it is that you're implementing, if it's going well or if it's working out the way it's supposed to be, and also to build large application, and also it will help us when it comes to improving maintenance. And I would like us to talk about common beginner mistake also is forgetting the parentheses. Also, when we miss the part where we have to return, to make use of the return statement, and having the wrong data type. Sometimes you are supposed to pass a string, you decide to pass an integer, you're supposed to pass an integer, decide to pass a double, vice versa, like that. These are one of the major, common mistakes that we actually make as a beginner. So also I would like to talk about our practice. Let's try as much as possible to practice as much as we can. Practice exercises, take a time to pause, create method, create the multiple one, create the one with the return, do it over and over again. If you have any question, like I was saying, drop your comments on the video. I'm going to respond to you, and we can actually, create the solution together. So just create make mistake as much as you can. That's part of, learning, and we can actually correct, or if you have anything that you have to make point over, we can actually look at it together. So just to sum up everything, I'm sure we have a proper understanding of how method works in Java. Methods are one of the most important tools for writing clean and professional code. And as your application grows larger, method will actually help keep your code organized and reusable. In the next video, we'll learn about object-oriented programming. We'll talk about classes and, of course, objects, and the foundation of professional Java development. So subscribe and continue with our courses. See you in the next video. Take care of yourself. Bye.